All right, everybody, welcome to the show. This episode is going to be a good one. I know you guys are probably hunkered down in your homes, and we hope that all are well and everyone's kind of hanging in there. We're doing okay. But as you sit there, I'm sure you are wondering, what is the fate and current state of the internal combustion engine? Many opine that it's in its twilight hour. I am not so sure about that. And electric is here to stay, and it's in its infancy. But listen in as my good friend Stuart Shoen puts on his U-Haul corporate hat, and we discuss, is the internal combustion engine dead? And this episode is brought to you by our good friends at Hagerty Insurance. We love, for sure, our vintage SUVs, and we're very passionate about them, owning them, driving them, taking care of them, talking about them, everything related. But when it comes to protecting your investment, your baby, you should check out Hagerty Insurance. They are car people. They get car people. And they're driven by a love for old cars and driving, and they're enjoyable to work with. And what's cool is the prices for really solid insurance are surprisingly affordable, and the coverage for a vintage SUV or classic car is really unrivaled. So check them out. They just launched a new website. It's really sweet. You can go on to that website and very easily get a quote, and I'm sure it will surprise you. So take some time while you're home or have some downtime. Check it out, especially as things loosen up, free up, we get back out, and you start driving your trucks more or cars more. Got to have them properly covered, man. And then you'll also become part of a cool family, and they are good friends of ours and support everything we do, and they support vintage 4x4 communities around and car communities. So check them out. It's worthwhile. Also, FSR, this company is designing and putting out some of the most amazing tents and equipment. After being locked down, I know for myself and my family, we're really excited to get out into the wild and camp and explore, just to be out in nature, man. I'm tired of being inside. FSR has a great lineup, of soft rooftop tents in their High Country series. So these are ones that kind of fold out, so the footprint doubles from what it is on your roof rack. Folds out, and they have a 55, 63, and 80. And essentially those numbers correspond to the width of the tent. So they're all, I think, 98 inches long unfolded. But 55, 63, and 80, so anywhere from 2 to 4 people. They're really easy to set up. No zippers, none of those dumb flexi metal poles. I don't like those things. And I just love these tents. We've had the opportunity to use them quite a bit. And then really exciting, they have a new design and a new series called the Odyssey. These are a hard shell tent, so they're going to occupy more of that roof rack space, but they set up in literally seconds. And they are only 7 inches thick and have an optional roof rack that goes on top of the hard shell tent that I think holds, don't quote me on this, I'll check the specs, but about 200 pounds of weight on top of the tent. So you can still put your Max Trax or bike or a paddleboard or something up there and still operate the tent. So super cool. They have 2 options, a 49 and a 55. Recently, we've outfitted 3 Scouts with the new 55 option and 149. So super cool, great look, kind of an industrial, modern, clean line looks. Check that out. Also, later this summer, they're coming out with a new Evolution series that'll have a similar footprint, similar 7-inch thick. They just open in a different orientation. That's called the Evolution series. Check it out. Anyway, super cool company. These tents look right, easy to use, super high quality. Go check them out and dream a little. Make some late summer plans. Get out and explore. Enjoy the rest of the episode. All right, welcome to the New Legend Podcast, where we explore vintage 4x4s, family culture, adventure, and being a man in the 21st century. Speaking of being a man, We're here again with the good friend Stuart Shoen.
Getting thin on guests on the podcast, clearly.
That's right. So, very exciting topic.
Yeah.
We'll just get right into it.
Okay.
But
Let's do it.
I do want to ask you.
Yes.
No, forget it. We're just going to get into it.
Okay.
I'll ask you this way: is the gasoline? Well, let's first, because you talked about in a previous episode.
Yeah.
You talked about kind of your car guy, not street cred,
but like chops.
Chops.
Story. My story.
Your experience, like you've got a vast amount of experience in buying cars, selling cars, doing builds, doing stock restorations,
making mistakes.
Yes. So, and I do want to dig into that again in a future episode. But can you talk us through a little bit about your professional?
Yeah.
Because this will give credibility to the question today, which is the gasoline engine dead?
Yes.
Because I'm going to take it from a little different angle. From when we asked the question, what is the future of driving? We kind of emphasize more the autonomous thing than the electric gasoline question.
Yeah.
So you are also uniquely qualified to speak on this issue around.
Thank you.
The gasoline engine.
Yeah.
Are we at its peak? All those things. So
it's one of my favorite topics.
Good.
Spoiler alert. Do you want to spoiler alert or no?
No. Tell us your credentials and then.
Okay.
So, or you can give us the spoiler.
So I'll save some. Maybe there's one person here who's hoping the answer is yes.
Okay.
Well, guess what? The answer is no.
Okay.
And everybody who doesn't want it to end for sentimental reasons, which I totally get, and you're looking for a way, and you don't have a great way to make that argument.
Yes.
Hopefully, we can provide a little bit of that. But regardless of what I want the answer to be, I very strongly believe that the answer is no. And
it's very encouraging.
Yeah, it is for me, and I hope it is for other folks.
But it's not based on just like sentimentality or because you're a car guy.
No, and it's not. I don't think it's even based on, me trying to predict consumer trends. Even.
Yes.
I think it's much more than that. And so so what is it? So for me, my job is I've worked in executive management at U-Haul for U-Haul, everybody that the truck and storage do-it-yourself moving company for as a professional adult for over 25 years. Not always in executive management, for that long, but somewhere in U-Haul and in I'd call just various positions in executive management for somewhere between 10 and 15 years. Including, who cares about the titles? Because I'm not trying to big time anybody, but the job that I had that was most relevant to this conversation was I was the top executive at we call it our technical center. But at another company you might call it the product division. So and that's probably my most fun and favorite job in U-Haul. I still have some ties and some responsibilities that are associated with that. But it's kind of my first love at U-Haul. And and the background behind that is that I am very fortunate enough to be the grandson of the husband and wife team who started U-Haul in 1945.
Amazing.
So
can we do this too?
Yeah.
Do you think someday we have a show called Building a Brand?
Yeah.
I would love to just talk about the story of U-Haul someday.
I would love to.
It's such a fascinating story.
It's a fun story.
It's amazing.
It's a cool story that I think is relevant, that other people can relate to.
For sure.
Very much so. So I would love to do that.
That's going to be on the books.
Okay.
So that's amazing. Okay, so you've...
Yeah.
So let's give us a little bit of, again, that's great, the credentials. Mm-hmm. But let's put that into perspective with scale.
Yeah.
So when we talk about... tell us real quick about the analogy. You said if you aim for the moon...
It was, I don't remember what we were talking about that brought it up. But if you want to aim for the moon... you can't even be 1 degree off, because if you're 1 degree off, you're going to be like, I don't know the math, but like you're going to be like 300,000 miles off from the moon.
So, and U-Haul is somewhat similar. Like if you have one error at the scale we're talking, so help us understand that scale so that we can understand again, your unique interest and credibility around the question of the gasoline engine.
So when we were talking about it earlier, when we were not recording ourselves, we were talking about how U-Haul keeps its fleet in the right places, and not in the wrong places. So that's not so much related to the question of that we're asking today, but the principle still holds. And so, when you when you have a fleet as large as U-Haul's fleet, and you make a mistake, you're going to make it big time.
Yes.
So, and obviously with that, if we know anything,
almost irrecoverable.
Yes.
The scale, which is crazy to think about.
For sure. And so if I know a lot, it's because I've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to make sure everybody is feeling the humility with which I feel like I have to approach all this with. But so our truck fleet, U-Haul's known mostly for its trucks, right?
Yeah.
But we are just as big a self-storage company that often goes hand in hand with people when they're moving and in transition times in their life. And then, we also have a very healthy business it's not on par revenue-wise with the trucks or the storage, but we're selling a lot of boxes, a lot of rope, a lot of tape.
Interesting.
We're the number one hitch installer in the country. Very proud of that. We happen to have a huge trailer fleet.
Yes.
And we also sell more propane than any single person in the country.
That's amazing.
Yeah, very, very proud of all those things. So
and again, when we do the building a brand episode, we'll dive into how those big things started as little ideas.
Yeah, the propane is a funny one too.
Yeah.
Like, why are we selling propane?
Right. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in business, managing a household, you can learn principles from all of those things.
And we can get 1,000% yes. And I actually, my first job out of college was teaching high school. So we could talk about that on that podcast too. But I learned so much about basic management teaching a class of sophomore English students, than just as much as I did. I have an MBA, but I learned just as much from that year teaching high school than I did from MBA.
Okay, so this big. What are we talking scale? Man?
Scale. So we have all these trucks, and they probably are. I don't know the exact number right now, but they're probably anywhere from 1 month old to. I'm guessing we have some trucks that are 10 years old.
Okay.
Our goal obviously is to have. It's funny. We don't have a goal to have new trucks. We don't have a goal to have old trucks. We don't have a goal to have trucks that work or trucks that. Our goal is to have trucks that are, and the phrase we use is fit for intended use.
Yes, I love it.
Because get the question asked a lot, what do you do with the trucks when you're done with them? And how do you know when you're done with them? And so that's again, right. But we have a very specific reason.
And none of that, Stu, is we just kind of guess.
Yeah.
You guys have data for everything.
Yeah. You got it.
Yes.
So I obviously don't want to give our secret sauce away in case our next competitor is lurking in the wings here. But no, it's not haphazard. And again, we've made a lot of mistakes with it. So that's where we've kind of come to learn. But one of the things that Sean and I, so we're at my office and we were literally in the bathroom and we started talking about this, and I got all revved up in the bathroom about it. And I think that's kind of why we're talking about it now, and it's a worthwhile conversation. It's a bad thing at U-Haul if our team members who are supposed to tell our customers, here's why you should feel good, safe, confident, comfortable doing, moving your prized possessions in our vehicles. It's not a good thing if they think that our vehicles are second rate, and they're not second rate. I think we have the best trucks in the industry, and we spec and build our trucks to be more than, to do more than they're supposed to do. We got some work going on in the background.
But similar, Stu, to so for example, let's bring it into a small world a little bit.
Yeah.
I was just at Barrett Jackson, some good people, but they're like, you know what you got to do? Start doing EV conversions.
Okay.
And it's that I get it. Everyone wants EV. It's it's the most amazing thing since sliced bread. But it's 50 to 60K for just the components.
Yeah.
And it's untested. You might get 80 miles of range. And how great is that?
Totally.
So anyway.
Totally.
And that's what you're speaking of.
Yes.
Specifically, this cultural
yes
pressure
to go to that thing. And
Right.
I think that we all hear, but we all live in the same world. So we
Right.
all hear and see headlines, and we have these larger than life business titans, whatever you think of Elon Musk.
Right.
I know people who I respect that think he's a titan of industry, that he's a genius, that he is where he's leading us to a new and better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know people that are like, the dude smoking doobies in his hot tub,
Right.
he's a joke. He's a clown,
Right.
man. And his company doesn't make any money. So, and I don't know. I certainly don't know enough to know whether he's for real or not.
And also, like, is the word neophyte? Does that mean you're afraid of new things?
No.
What is that word?
I know you weren't getting me on here because of this credential, but I am a Latin and Greek major in college, so I actually know what that means. A neophyte is a rookie, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's that's the best way.
I could have acted.
It doesn't
smart
necessarily
and
mean
played
they're
them.
afraid of things, but it does connote that they're ignorant, and it's not their fault. You're a neophyte. You don't know what you're doing.
Right, but that is not you because, like, for example, or just embracing new things because, like, your home, for example, you have solar, like you.
Yeah.
So you're not like just. I just wanted to set that
Thank you.
context that you're
Okay.
not like.
I'm not a curmudgeon who's a dinosaur who's stuck in the past.
That's right.
I don't have a financial interest in
Right.
EVs not succeeding. I
That's right.
can tell you that
That's
for
right.
sure. So my wife drives a plug-in hybrid, a
Yes.
PHEV, for those who are keeping score at home. So I get asked all the time from my buddies to people that I work with, like at U-Haul, to people outside of U-Haul that work with that we're partners or doing business with.
Yep.
They all want to know questions basically like, when's U-Haul going to be an all EV fleet? When's U-Haul going to be all autonomous? When's U-Haul? Why doesn't how many EVs do you have in your fleet right now? And the answer is none.
Right.
And then you'll see like I don't know the numbers for sure, but like FedEx and UPS. They've press released, and we do business with both of them.
Right.
So happy to be their business partners. But like you'll see headlines that they've got 5 UPS full EV vehicles operating in LA or the Bay Area or something like that, right? And you it gives you the impression that
Right.
the people at those companies, they see this coming, whatever it is, they see it coming. They're going to be a part of it. I think it's designed, those press releases and those articles are designed to give you the general appearance that the people at managing those companies are basically with it.
Right.
And then someone asked me, when's U-Haul going to do this? And how many do we have? And do you have any in the pipe? And I say, nope. And,
Which-
I'm at risk, putting myself at risk of looking like a dope.
Yeah, but also like, let's be real. Like, how many UPS trucks are there? Like hundreds of thousands. Like,
Probably. There's got to be.
so to have 5. Like, I don't know whether
Yeah.
those numbers are accurate. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like 10, 15% of their fleet. So it's somewhat like if U-Haul wanted the press release, you could get 5.
We absolutely could.
Right.
And
Like,
we've had
very
people
easily.
in that space approach us, the people who did their trucks and people who maybe
Right.
different company. We've had US based, non-US based. We had like all these people, come at us, and we're happy if you have one and you are looking up U-Haul, we welcome your inquiry for
exactly,
sure.
for
But
sure.
the reason why I've always declined that is because it's a very long yet, but basically because we don't think we're there yet. And
Meaning U-Haul or the general infrastructure?
Both.
Yeah, okay.
Both. And the first reason is because, so part of my job, the last thing I'll credential you on my creds is that I personally have been involved with the speccing and the very direct interaction between U-Haul and its very good partners, OEs, original equipment
Yes,
manufacturers, the OEMs, OEs for short. But that has been and is me with my work. I'm not doing it by myself, but my colleagues are in the room, doing the back and forth, having those conversations and scrutinizing every little piece of it
At the highest level.
At the highest level,
Yeah, which is awesome.
It's really cool. Like if you're a car person,
so
like we
cool.
are, like just going to Dearborn or downtown Detroit and working with we mainly are working with Ford and GM, but meeting engineers or going to the plant and seeing how it all comes together. It's a real privilege and a
super
treat.
cool, yeah.
So and very humbling. So the first thing that I think people don't really grasp is with the decision about whether it's your personal vehicle or your company's fleet. Maybe you have a electrician. You're an electrician. You got like
Right.
a fleet of 10 vehicles and you're running them
Yeah.
around. How do you know, what's the decision that you should make, you should be thinking about, should going to an EV, if that choice were even available to you?
Yes.
And really it's what is the duty cycle of the vehicle? And duty cycle is, I'm not an engineer, but I've been around a lot of them with my job. And generally speaking, I'm talking about what is that truck doing over and over and over again? What is it? We all have a duty cycle for ourselves, right? We get up in the morning at a certain time.
Right.
There's this repeatability to our lives, and an expectation of what I'm going to do tomorrow is probably similar to what I did today. With U-Haul trucks, we have a duty cycle. We have a belief about the environments they're going to be running in.
Yep.
Climate-wise, road-wise, all those types of conditions. We have an expectation about how often they get used. We have an expectation about the work they have to do.
And you have to kind of think worst case, right? Do you think
you definitely do?
Yeah.
You have to think of what's the hardest duty that it's going to see and plan for that. Because if you don't, if anybody thinks U-Haul is cheap, and I would, I want to beat my competitors, but I'm not going to throw shade on my competitors in this way. Like, everybody makes their own decisions about it. But for the most part, people, it doesn't make, even if you're a greedy businessman in this industry, it doesn't make financial sense to go cheap on your truck, because you're just going to have to, it's going to wear out faster. You're going to have to maintain it more. It's going to be down more often, because it's going to be, you're going to burn out your brakes if they're too small, all that stuff. So there's no financial incentive to being a cheapo on your truck.
Right.
So you ask yourself, what is it going to be doing? And, we do a lot of research about what our customers and what are they doing with it. And we try to get our elbows in as deep as we can in the details, but we have a belief about what their average payload is.
Right.
And things like this. Okay. And so you take that and you say, you reverse engineer. Right. You want to reverse engineer the truck to do that. You don't want to build a truck and then tell people, here's what you can and can't do with it. That's,
because no one's going to listen.
Right. People, especially if you're moving.
Right.
It doesn't matter what I think you should do. You got to do whatever you got to do.
Right.
So you can't just the label says I shouldn't do this, I guess I won't. I mean, I think we're all realistic about that. So, you really need to provide the most capability that you can to your customer.
And with you guys, unlike personally owned end user, you have to think it's also got to be somewhat dummy proof.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I don't want to speak down to my customer, but
some
people,
it just has to, because it's not
there's a difference. Sean's son needed a truck not too long ago, and I was on the phone with him about it, and I gave him different advice because I knew he was your son, and he wasn't his first time around a trailer, versus that I would give my wife, who I love very much, but I would give her different advice on what she should or shouldn't be doing, and what she is probably capable or not of. Sorry, Megan. So, but we absolutely want to make it as available to most people. And, very interesting. There's another cool piece of trivia about, where we live in the United States and Canada, is that people ask about, you need a CDL to drive a truck. And it's part of, I think, our culture, American culture, is no, you don't. If you were using that truck and transporting X number of pounds to make a buck, the code is in the furtherance of a commercial interest. Interesting. Then you need a CDL. If you're moving your personal stuff or driving your own RV, when you see,
that's why.
When you see trucks that say not for hire.
Yeah.
It's not telling someone on the street, hey, can I hire your RV? It's telling the law enforcement, you don't need to pull me over and ask me to see my inspection log, because I'm private.
Got it.
It's for personal stuff.
Someone just asked me that question. Why don't they require?
That's why.
Big rental trucks, meaning a U-Haul or an RV to have a CDL. They thought it was air brakes.
No,
that's not it.
No, it's to me, it goes right back to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yeah. We
believe in this country, if you want to move your family across the RV in a road trip, then government shouldn't get in your way.
Cool.
But if you're hauling your widgets,
now
you should be regulated.
Liability and
So that's for whether you agree with it or not. That's kind of the premise. So what's the duty cycle of that truck going to do? And so when you look at trucks, and that's kind of where my expertise is.
Right.
at the fundamental level, it takes a certain amount of energy to move that cargo. Let's call it 17,000 pounds.
Right. I know where you're going.
That to move it that distance, and then you can move it that distance for a certain number of miles. Then you say, okay, well, how many of your trips go longer than that number of miles? And our answer is most of them, right?
Right.
You can imagine U-Haul's doing a lot of one-way moves. So you're going to be you have to refill many times. And so the first thing is there's a 30-gallon tank of gasoline or diesel. We're talking fossil fuel.
Yeah.
Right. Internal combustion engine is still cannot be beat in terms of amount of energy stored in a small space, small volume.
And like another just aspect, you guys have it like working with those OEs, you have combinations that are like the peak of reliability, efficiency for this intended duty cycle.
Totally. So two examples of exactly what you're saying. One, personally, I'm a Ford guy. I grew up just liking Fords and Mustangs and stuff. But so with all that bias, I still shout from the rooftops, the LS engine is the greatest engine ever built.
Wow.
But I don't think it's even close, and I think that it's probably going to be looked back as the most incredible engineering feat of the century, even though it existed both before and after.
That's high praise coming from you. So that's meaningful.
I mean, think about it though. They built millions of these.
Millions.
Their track record is incredible. There's myths surrounding them. I think there's a Hot Rod magazine article where they tried to. The article was, how much turbo boost does it take to break an LS engine? And the answer was unknown. We maxed out and we still couldn't break it.
Wow.
On just like a junkyard motor, I think is what it was. So I mean, there's like myth around the whole thing. And then my favorite part is they keep making it better.
Yes.
They keep finding ways to make it better and better. So that's example number one about, like you're saying, it's the best our country has. Excuse me, I should say North America. It's the best North America has to offer in terms of smarts.
Right.
They attacked that problem and they came up with the LS engine, and what big success. The next one is that so in our biggest truck, our 26-foot truck, we are going to be very soon that the engine in that platform for the longest time. That and in many of our other trucks, it was a 6.8 liter V10 engine.
I didn't realize that. So in your biggest trucks, they were still gas.
Still gas.
Was that intentional from like what most people, consumer-based people, are used to in their vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
Because for a couple of reasons. One, sometimes diesel's cheaper per mile, cost plus MPG, right? Because sometimes those are different. But cost and MPG overlaid, sometimes diesel is cheaper and sometimes it's not.
Right.
Okay. Let's say though, you could say, well, it's usually cheaper than gas. And we want to lower our costs for our customers. That's our goal. So why would we go away from diesel even in those situations? Well, the big one is if you're not used to diesel, and not all gas stations carry diesel.
That's right.
So you don't know where exactly to get it. You pull over to a gas station. Oh no, they don't have it. You pull over to another gas station. Oh no, they don't have it.
Or all they have is like big rig diesel. Like that has like the 2-inch
huge
spout.
Yeah. So the big fear, and anyone that's had this in a diesel is if you go to the gas station and you're not thinking and you put gasoline in your diesel tank, that could be a $10,000
Did you guys
bill.
ever experiment with diesels?
We did.
And did that happen?
All the time. All the time.
That's terrible.
So, boom.
For everybody, it's terrible.
For everyone. Right. So, do you try to collect from the customer? Or it's pain all the way around.
Right.
Bad. And it's like it's not $1,000 bill, it's a $10,000 bill. And shocker, renting trucks is not a lucrative business profit margin wise.
Right.
You have to do a lot of transactions to generate a lot of revenue in truck rental. So you can't afford to have a whole lot of $10,000 maintenance bills unanticipated.
Right.
I'm not talking about brake jobs. I'm talking about
how many rentals
gas in the diesel. Yeah, there's a dude. I was telling Sean, there's a dude at U-Haul who he knows. Anytime there's a big amount of money discussed, he says we got to do 200,000 more rentals to cover that. So it's and he's known for it. So so the gas 6.8 liter V10 Ford's motor, that's a workhorse. I'm the biggest supporter of that engine.
What year is that engine?
They probably started using that in the early 2000s.
Okay.
So we've had a 15-year run with that engine.
It's a great.
But it's terrific.
Yeah, Stu was telling me like that it's an amazing workhorse.
It's a total workhorse. It just runs. They've decided they can't get any more out of it.
Right.
They have mileage and power improvements that they have to reach, whether you agree with that or not politically, not relevant for the purposes of this discussion. So how are they going to do it? Interestingly, their solution to that was the new motor that is probably has gotten the most press because it's in their new Tremor, which is like their full-size kind of Raptor-ish truck. And they called the new motor Godzilla.
Yeah.
Which I love. So we're getting Godzilla.
Nice.
But so Godzilla is a 7.3 liter pushrod V8.
Wow.
That gets more power and at better mileage.
Wow.
And you go, how are they doing this?
Yeah.
When they told us that, we were like, guys, that doesn't sound very smart. And then they said, yeah, I know, but listen. And there's a good YouTube video, I'll try to send it to you, of an engineer, a powertrain engineer explaining it on like a cutaway version of the engine at some like SEMA or Fleet Show or something. And he basically says, I'll cut to the chase. He goes, what we realized is we knew exactly how much horsepower and torque we needed.
Yep.
And we knew that, and we wanted to make it the most efficient way to produce that most power. And so they took that figure and applied the stoichiometric ratio, which I think is the ideal gas to fuel ratio for gasoline. And they figured out using that math, they reversed high school algebra, they backed into the displacement. What does the displacement of the engine need to be? And then the challenge was just how can we make it so that the motor operates at that stoichiometric ratio
efficiency, right,
most or all the time.
Yeah.
And what they found was we need a slightly bigger engine, but we're going to make more power and more efficient. So it'll actually be it'll be an improvement miles per gallon than a 6.8 liter engine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
and they what was the other big one of that? Oh shit! I just.
But what are the power figures? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
It's like pretty impressive.
Well, it moves our 26,000 pound rated truck, and I think it's actually rated higher than that in other platforms when they put it in other vehicles. So it's no joke. It would be an engine that anybody should be proud to have in their vehicle.
You'll stick with your gasoline.
We're going to be a gas fleet, for the foreseeable future. In fact, let's put it this way. I don't know how long, but we don't have a plan to not be a gasoline fleet.
Right.
I remember the reason why I'm like, just push rods and whatever, like that's kind of old tech, guys. And they said, yeah, and it works really good and it's really reliable and there's not a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
So less, and they knew that it was going to be in a lot of fleet applications. So they're like, yeah, we want
to so to educate. I know it's a basic thing, but difference between a push rod.
Oh gosh, you're better explain that to me.
It's in opposed to like an overhead cam motor, which doesn't have push rods. The cam essentially operates right on the rocker arm, typically.
Yeah.
Right. So a push rod means
there's like all these rods in the V.
Yeah, like the cam is central in the block.
Yeah.
Like Chevy LS, small block Chevys.
Yeah.
Most like more high RPM motors tend to be overhead.
Yeah.
Cam.
And if I was telling you, I got company X is building this new motor and it's going to be super efficient.
Yeah, and you said push rod.
Yeah, you would think that it's going to have an elaborate valve train and have super variable timing,
right? So
as to advance and spark and fuel and valve timing and all that stuff. But which is people do that very well, but there's a lot of moving parts. They wear out fast. There's a lot of chains. You'll have to do a 30,000 mile service that costs a lot of money and all this. And so that's fleets don't like that because they want little downtime. They want maintenance that is predictable and doesn't have a lot of spikes.
Yes,
right. It's because they're trying to put food on their table with this, just like we are at U-Haul. So
and you can see like what you were talking about earlier, the large truck thing. I know it's like you can conceptualize it, but like or theorize about the possible of EV.
Yeah,
but like, dude, with what you said, like the variability of like. So let's put 20,000 pounds of household items.
Yep.
and you have to go and you
want a 300-mile range.
Yeah.
The
and it's
amount
uphill
of
and headwind.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's so many variables to longevity.
Yes.
And I know they're working on it and it's getting better with
Totally.
EVs, but
I have relatives that have Teslas and they're awesome.
Right, but
Awesome.
it's almost insurmountable, the amount of variables
totally.
in your situation within the bigger trucks, even in the smaller trucks. But
And if you were going to try to make a EV U-Haul truck, your payload would diminish so much because you would have to have so many batteries.
Right.
And let's say you could do that, and so you can pay a company like a tier 1 supplier who supplies parts to all these ones. They've come to us and they said, we want to build you an EV, and they'll do that, and it's like $500,000 per truck.
Right.
So I don't even want to tell you what that would do to 1995 that's on the side of our trucks right now as the price per day. It would increase exponentially, and no one's willing to pay for that.
Let alone I know we don't have to get into this because neither one of us, I'm not an expert by any means, but like that, think about how small, like you said, energy per measure, the gas engine is relatively small.
Yes.
The fuel tank, relatively
small. Yeah.
And I get it, but like mining the earth for 20 feet of batteries.
Yeah.
Can't be. It's not for free.
Yes. And it is, I won't make the argument that, when you take all of it in totality, EVs are actually less environmentally friendly than gas. Some people try to make that argument. I don't think I don't think that holds up in the long run, but it's the point I'm hearing you make, which is absolutely true, is that it's not simply, there's no smoke coming out your tailpipe, therefore it's clean.
There's no combustion.
Yeah, no, there's power plants that are making that. There's all these precious metals inside the battery. And then what happens to the battery when it's done? I mean, if I took a bunch of batteries and I said, I want to take all the dead batteries that don't work out of Teslas 5 years from now, and I'm going to put them underneath your child's bed for the next 5 years, you would decline that opportunity.
And like the irony is probably the machines that mine the earth, I don't think are electric powered.
Yeah. So it's clearly a better solution with less emissions, but it's far from perfect. Okay. And I think, when you're making these decisions, you're making them in an imperfect environment. You're not looking for the perfect solution. You're looking for the best solution.
And like a homeowner, or like not a homeowner, but a dude buying a Tesla, your values of like protecting the environment, or whatever it might be,
or maybe it's just saving money on gas.
Yeah, for sure.
I get it.
That value can influence and override practicality to go like, I just want to go nonstop. Like, I don't want to stop for an hour to charge.
Yeah.
I just want to. So when it's your personal decision, but as a company, it's a completely Your customers are not going to have that value structure built in.
I cannot tell you how many, and I don't think any company is this. I'm about to make a statement that I think is true for every company. There's a lot of people in companies who have very creative ideas, and can paint compelling visions. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'm one of those people, but I also have learned that that's good and that's interesting, but sometimes it doesn't matter, because if it's compelling to you but not compelling to your customer, who cares?
Exactly.
It's interesting, good for you. And I say this because I've showed up with some good ideas and then I had to get brought back down to earth. The customer doesn't want that, Stuart.
Right.
That's awesome, but the customer's not really willing to pay for that. And sometimes we know because we've tried variations of that.
Right.
Or sure, we'll try it, but don't be surprised. And a lot of times, we find out
like campers, dude.
The best the best U-Haul example is that I think everybody can relate to maybe is like back when there was these things called CDs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if all your listeners remember, but I used to get all the time, how come you don't have CD players in U-Haul trucks? And I'd say, well, we can get them. And then I'd say, well, when's the last time you rented a truck? And they'd tell me, and I'd say, well, if I charged you $5 more per day, would you want the CD player? Well, no.
Right.
Okay, well, that's why we don't have them. And it wouldn't be $5 a day, but you know what I mean? The example is we put things on the truck that people are willing to pay for, we think.
That's right.
And I'm sure we get it wrong and right at a certain ratio, but that's the mindset. It's not because we're trying to save a buck. It's because whatever if we pay for it, we're going to have the customer's got to pay. At the end of the day, the customer pays for everything.
That's right.
So if you're not the way my dad, who's the big boss at U-Haul, the way he talks is you're spending the customer's money. How would the customer want you to spend that money? And so you got to try to do a good job of that.
Again,
so
one more just anecdotal thing. To that point, the customer who wants to move, how many people that need to rent a U-Haul are on a leisurely pace? Like, we'll get there when we get there. No, it's always code red.
Yes.
And they're grinding late hours drive.
Yes.
Like imagine now stop every 150 miles and charge for an hour.
No, and woe to you, it's in our industry, woe to you if you don't honor that.
Right.
That impulse. I got to go,
Exactly.
and because people don't move for fun. They're moving because they got a job that they got to be at on Monday.
Yep.
It's death in the family, divorce. I got to go now. You don't understand. I got to go now. So there's the reasons for moving are all high stress, even on the good side or bad side. They're all high stress. And so, you have to honor that and orient yourself towards that. So yeah.
Okay. So U-Haul, not in the near future. It's not, I think we scratched the surface. We can talk more, but transition, unless you have something else to say about that, I want to transition to the enthusiast market.
Okay. Yeah, I do have a little more soapbox to stand on.
Great. I love it.
Because it goes back to what I said earlier. If I were to answer that question in a way that allowed my team members, my coworkers who are literally dispatching trucks to customers right now to think that the better future is an electric vehicle and that we just are stuck with these crummy old gas dinosaurs, that's just not the case. Look at race cars. The highest level of race cars are not electric vehicles, they're hybrids. And that's because
I don't know, you know racing better than most, but are they starting? Don't they have hybrids starting?
There's Formula E, which are electric cars, and I'm not as much a Formula E and Formula E fan, but my belief is that they're not doing pit stops that relate to fuel. That your one battery pack does the race, I think, or if not, they're interchanging battery packs.
Yes,
they're not charging up the car in the pit.
Right.
But at Le Mans, which is the Super Bowl of racing, the highest class of car at Le Mans are hybrids, and they either regenerate. Maybe I'm a year because they always are.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Leveling up, but they're either regenerating power with braking, like on a Prius, or they have a generator that wraps around the exhaust.
No way.
And when the exhaust gets hot, it generates power. And what you realize in racing, where for all intents and purposes, it's win at all costs.
Right.
In our lives, we rarely have any objectives that are do X at all costs. We have do the best you can within these constraints. Well, in racing, where there are no constraints, so far the best technology the globe has to offer is a hybrid, and that's because in some situations, when you're coming out of the corner, an electric motor is better because of the torque. And you can get going faster. When you're in the straight and you want gasoline, you want horsepower when you're going fast and you want to stay going fast. And it also helps, of course, with range. So if you have the fastest car but you have to pit twice as much as the next guy, you're going to lose.
Right.
So that should tell you something about what is the most efficient use of creating power and dispatching energy in a vehicle. It's a hybrid. So, and they're not plug-in hybrids; they're hybrids. It's like a Prius.
Right.
My wife drives a Volvo that has a plug-in battery, so it has 20, and that goes back to duty cycle. So, her duty cycle, she rarely needs to drive 300 miles.
Right.
She drives 30 miles. The first 20 of which are electric. Then after that, her car turns into a hybrid. So her net fuel economy is 80 miles per gallon, but she's never actually getting 80 miles. She's either getting 0 miles per gallon or 20.
Got it.
So, okay. So now let's scale that to the U-Haul fleet. First of all, we're not doing short trips. We're doing long trips.
Yes.
We're doing trips that are
So that's the majority of your business as a whole is longer trips, not just in town.
There's a million ways to answer that question.
Right.
And it's a little, I don't want to give anything. I don't know what I can and can't give up.
Sure.
But I will say that it's enough long trips that we have to be very heavily oriented towards the long trip. And then we're more fully loaded than we are empty. So you have to build the truck assuming it's fully loaded. That goes to, tuning, engine calibrations and transmission shift tables and all that stuff.
Which you guys think through.
Totally.
That's awesome.
We've got custom calibrations.
That's awesome.
That are for U-Hauls that you can buy an E350, but you're not going to get the U-Haul calibration.
Right. That's pretty cool.
I think it's really cool. So let's go back to that UPS truck. That UPS truck, even though it's carrying heavy weight, it's loaded most of the time, it's different because what's it doing? It's going around town. It's not going on the highway.
With a professional driver.
So it lends itself much better to a hybrid. Why? Because I think most people know in the city environment,
that's right,
your stop and go is actually better for your fuel economy than a long highway trip where you're set at 65 the whole way.
Right.
So these things matter big time as to whether U-Haul's ever going to have hybrids and electrification in their fleet, because frankly, it's not the best fit for our duty cycle.
That's right.
Our duty cycle still is so much overwhelmingly towards internal combustion engines because of the range and because of the type of driving.
Right.
So then let's pretend that we had crossed the barrier where it became better for a pure EV or a plug-in hybrid.
Right.
So my official position is that you'll see a hybrid, like a Prius type of drivetrain in a U-Haul truck before you would ever see an EV or a plug-in. But let's say we got to that point where it's EVs. They're cheap enough. They're small enough so you can package them. The next problem is how do you charge the darn things? Right. A typical U-Haul store may have, 20 trucks is not crazy.
Right.
So now if anybody has an electric charger at a car at their home, they know that a circuit that you put even the most low-end electric charger
is what, 30 amps?
It's like 30 amp.
Yeah.
And a house that has I think a typical house is 200 or maybe even 100 amps.
100, yeah.
So 200 amp is high medium, I think.
Yep.
So, 30 amp, which could be 30% of the power going into your house, is just to support the charging of one vehicle.
Yes.
Dedicated for that. Then we're going to say, well, what if everybody in the house has those? You might need 2 or 3 of those chargers. Now you have to upgrade your panel in your house, right?
And now everyone in the city has one.
That's what it is.
Crazy. Yeah.
So imagine now everybody in the city has that. Okay, we're gonna have to run some more wires underground. Then at a U-Haul location, just forget everyone else. Just let's talk about U-Haul.
Right.
You got to have 20 chargers at your facility.
And we're not talking Priuses. We're talking trucks.
And we now know, as we kind of laid out, you have to have a lot more energy than my wife's Volvo requires.
That's right.
So you'd be having 100 amp chargers to charge big batteries. And then also there's an imperative, a sustainability-based imperative at U-Haul to do, if we could figure out how to do this, we would do it. You'd be much better off. Let's say we have 150,000 trucks. That's the approximate number. We could do the same amount of work, serve the same amount of customers with a 50,000 truck fleet. How do we do that? Well, if we just made everybody move in shifts, very organized, 8-hour shifps, we'd have a shift 1, shift 2, shift 3,
right?
And we could do that. Then we could just keep the trucks running all the time, and they'd never sit in a parking lot. We could have smaller real estate. We wouldn't need to have trucks parked for any amount of time. The other one is if we could also help everybody so that no one, 1/7 of everyone moved on a Saturday and 1/7 of everybody moved on a Wednesday. But that, of course, doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
And we'd have to make it so 1/12 of everybody moved in January and 1/12 of people moved in June. But no, a lot more people need to move in June.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So
man,
if you could have, in a perfect world, you could balance all these things out. You could. The point would be you could have a 50,000 truck fleet and not have to consume all those resources.
Right.
Real estate, you wouldn't have to have all that steel being used. But no, the customer wants more flexibility than that and needs more flexibility than that. So we have to charge vehicles at our place. We would have to charge them at our place. And it's not practical to say that while we'd like to have every truck go back to back to back to back to back, right? You drop it off and an hour later I rent that truck.
Exactly.
I would love that on every truck every time, but that doesn't work for the customer.
Right.
So you're going to have to charge, invariably, we get a lot of trucks dropped off at night. We get a lot of truck dropped off Sunday night and Monday morning. So you're going to have 30 trucks at a decent sized U-Haul location, all needing to charge for a customer that's going to get it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about a lot of power. The upgrades to the infrastructure of just one location are mind blowing.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Let alone in any large city, there might be 20 U-Haul, like
yeah,
more.
Yeah.
And so then you're shifting vehicles because there's a charger open at that one. Then you're just like mindlessly moving
Now
vehicles.
think about what the police, other big fleets in the States, police,
Right.
fire, other government fleets. You have rental car fleets. You have basic trades and construction industry. Like those are the big fleets. I'm probably leaving someone out, and I'm pro fleet because it's like those are my people. So it's a tremendously, the dominoes are tremendous. And I think that if somebody is a very staunch advocate and wants that, like I think you and I both know people that we respect
For sure.
that very, what I would call aggressively, are like, would like me to get going on this task. What get going would mean is I would have to tell you, great, we can do that, but we're all going to have to agree that we're going to have to move in shifts. I'm going to have to tell you when you have a 1 month window to move.
Right.
So the people who want that,
Right.
I'm trying to be kind. The people who want that, they don't want to have to accept any of the other things
That's right.
that forcing this would imply.
I think that goes with a lot of stuff. Like people's virtue,
Oh, yeah.
it goes out the window very quickly when
Oh,
it
yeah.
starts to affect them and their convenience, not even need. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Just from that alone, even the most virtuous person,
Yeah.
if they had to move, would be annoyed at that.
Of course, and I would be too, and it's it'd be very natural. I think everybody gets that, and I think that's kind of obviously the customer is always right, and you need to the company needs to be way more customer focused than the customer needs to be focused on the company, and so I'm not this is not me asking for sympathy from everybody, and woe is me, and how isn't my job hard, but I do think that to the extent that you are interested in this and want to see this happen and see the good aspects of it, I think we all do. I think that if you wanted to see change happen faster, then you have to embrace the realities associated with it. And most of them are just straight up physical realities that, so all the crews that would be running those additional power lines in the ground, you know what they're not going to be doing? They're not going to be fixing as many potholes probably. Right. They might not be putting up as many street lights or going from incandescent bulbs to LED bulbs on the street lights, and like all these things. Of course, the first thing they taught me in business school was we live in a world of limited resources. So every choice has to be made with the assumption that resources are limited.
Interesting.
And that's not just natural resources. That's manpower. That's dollars. That's time. It's geography and real estate. Why is real estate a good investment? Because they're not making any more of it.
Right.
All those cheesy dad jokes. Anyway, so my soapbox, and then we'll move on to the enthusiast thing. My soapbox is, it's incredibly complicated. Our ability to make one electric car is incredible. And I'm proud.
Amazing, right?
I'm patriotic about it.
Same.
But it's a totally different task to now spread that far and wide. I don't think you should even. Some people are lust for it, and I look forward to the future, like the Jetsons, where my turkey dinner comes out of a door and it's perfect. But you have to ask yourself, do you really want that? Because I think, and this is maybe a good transition to enthusiast and consumerism. I think the way it won't go where one day all internal combustion engines vehicles are useless and EVs are the only thing on the road. It will be it'll be gradual. This is Stu's predictions.
Okay, here we go. This is the good stuff.
It'll be gradual. 2, you will find much more often than they are now, vehicles will be marketed. I'm talking about marketing campaigns even. They will be built and marketed for niche uses.
Interesting. Okay.
So now, like today, you see you've got sports cars, you got sedans, you got work trucks. I think you're going to see much more niche cars, like buy the Ford. Whoever comes up with the names of cars are wow. The Ford whatever, the perfect car to get you to work if you live in the city.
Yes.
But then there'll be the Ford whatever, the perfect car to take trips with your family on the weekends. The perfect car to get errands done.
Okay.
And because we're going to have powertrains, as long as fuel economy standards continue to raise at what I think is as a fairly aggressive rate, the only way these guys and gals who have to build those vehicles to meet those, the only way they can do them is to build the vehicle niche.
That's really good input.
Yeah. So here's proof of that.
Yeah.
Towing ratings on everything except pickup trucks are going down.
Interesting.
And the reason is because they have to make the vehicles operate in a much smaller range where it can reliably operate. And so what's the first part of its operational range to go if you're in a Chevy Malibu? The towing rating. Right. Okay. U-Haul, I would love it that every vehicle had a 3,000 pound towing rating.
Right.
Every vehicle kind of used to.
That's interesting.
But no, the Malibu now probably has a 1,200 pound towing rating. I'm totally guessing.
No, but
and then pretty soon it's going to have a 0 rating. And that's what they're doing is they're basically making the engine operate in a much narrower range.
Because the opposite is true. Like the trucks that are built for towing,
that's getting
exponentially bigger. It's crazy.
Yeah. So what the OE's solution to it is, and I don't like this, but it is what it is. They want everybody to do all their towing in a pickup truck or a large SUV.
Right.
I wish every car had a hitch on it for a selfish reason. But anyway, so that's where that's going. So what I see that playing out 5, 10, 15 years out as vehicles are going to be much more explicitly marketed for certain duty cycles.
Yep.
And that will have to do with what's your job, what's your lifestyle, and very much so where you live.
Yeah, right.
Then I think so that's kind of prediction 1A. Prediction B or 2 is you will see some cities, the big cities, New York, San Francisco, they will be the first to say, where there's, especially because of the geography of those cities,
right?
They'll be the first cities where, since they can control, there's a very limited of ins and outs. Mm-hmm. My guess would be Manhattan. They'll be the first city to be like, only EVs only.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which is already happening in Europe, right? Or certain.
I don't know.
I think there are some things in Germany.
But it is, if you don't have a certain type of vehicle or a certain type of permit, I think in Manhattan, I don't live there and I don't go there. I love it to visit, but I couldn't live there. I think that there's already a very steep penalty. Like if you don't have a certain permit on your vehicle,
right,
it costs you like $100 to drive to Manhattan from Jersey.
Wow.
Yeah, like that's going up. So they're very clearly trying to limit the amount of vehicles in there. So for congestion reasons and all these obvious things, and I don't discourage it, but so I think you'll see those cities will be quick to go there. But think of a rural city, right? Ames. That's not a rural city, but like a much more rural city. I can think of a bunch of cities. I'm from Arizona, so I think of like Prescott or Payson or Sedona, Flagstaff. Yeah, and a lot of people don't like to hear it, but there's a lot more of those than there are Manhattans. Right. So you could make Manhattan or San Francisco all electric. Sure, we could do that.
I agree.
But if you want to leave Manhattan, it becomes way more complicated.
Right.
So you'll see them. Geographies there'll be intensification of electrification in various cities. Third, I think you'll see a steep rise in hybrids and plug-in hybrids way before the big EV takeover happens.
Yeah, I like it.
And you're seeing it already in performance cars.
Yes.
I think Ferrari actually doesn't make any more
all gas.
I think it's all hybrid. Where the highest performance Porsche is a hybrid. So the myth, the belief that hybrids are like gutless cars, I think that will change.
Right.
And I think I'm excited about that.
Do you own any hybrid performance cars?
No.
Ever driven one?
No.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But they're awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm not a hater at all. So I think, and then I don't know if we'll ever get to like everyone's driving an EV. I don't even know I don't know again, I think that's actually, and I don't have that as a goal.
Yeah.
Even in my Jetsons reality that I wish we all lived in. So
that's good, man.
Okay.
That's been really helpful. So listen.
Yes.
To get to the enthusiast and consumer-based topic.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait till next time.
Dang it. I feel like I owe you an apology.
No, that was
the second time
dude,
I've done this to you.
It's so good, man.
Well, I appreciate it. It
helps me and I'm sure everybody listening just stretch your mind, think about it more broadly.
Yeah.
When you think at scale, you tend to think less from your own little blinders.
Yeah. But it has way more to do with
and I like it, man. The future's bright. That was positive.
It is.
Positive
And there's so much the internal combustion engine, again, I go back to that LS engine. They're still cranking power out of that thing. And they're gonna
industry-wide, dude, it's insane, the horsepower, like the efficiency and horsepower.
Heck yeah.
I don't think we've reached the peak efficiency.
There's no way.
Right.
There's no way. Think about what you thought was amazing 10 years ago.
Right. 300 horsepower 10 years ago in a production car was like,
that was rare. That was the rarest of air. It was, I mean, there was probably, when I was in high school, there was probably 2 or 3 production cars that made over 300 horsepower. Yeah. And I wasn't in high school that long ago.
Right.
Today, can you think of a car that makes less than 250 horsepower?
Dude, like V6, 4 cylinders. Like,
yes.
And like 600 is getting common.
Absolutely.
Which is nuts, dude.
Yeah. I didn't dare to dream about that,
right.
15 years ago. So, yes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I so much appreciate having the chance to talk to you about this
so what's going to happen, we'll be back.
Okay.
We're going to come back in a few months.
Good.
And we'll hammer out 2 more episodes. We'll finish talking about kind of the build philosophy, like when is too much, how to approach a build, because I think there's more to mine there.
Yep.
Talk about your Boss 302 and the Ford pickup truck.
Yeah.
And then we'll do gas
enthusiast electrification.
Is the gas engine dead?
Yeah.
It's not, but we will answer that from that enthusiast side. So until next time, Stuart, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. You guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.